You're listening to the Visibly Fit podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. Hello, and thanks for tuning into this episode of Visibly Fit. I'm your host, Wendie Pett. I say often, your health is your true wealth, and it is. Your health is your true wealth. And that's what today's show is all about. And we have a perfect person that I get to interview today. Her name is Krisstina Wise, and she is just a lovely woman. She is a real estate mogul, millionaire coach, and creator of several multi-million-dollar businesses. And she's also an international speaker and the award-winning author of the Amazon bestseller book called Falling for Money, a romance novel for your bank account. She was also named one of the 100 most influential real estate leaders in the country, and she's been featured in many publications, including USA Today. But here it is. After nearly losing her life in 2013 and spending almost $500,000 to get it back, she is changing the world. She's on a mission to change the world, again, by inspiring others to build extraordinary wealth and optimal health. By sharing her extreme successes and her failures, Krisstina reveals the elusive secrets of the uber wealthy and why health is where to invest first. Enjoy the show. Well, welcome to the Visibly Fit podcast, Krisstina. It is so awesome to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. My goodness. We have had a little bit of time getting to know one another. We met, maybe a little over a year ago at an event. And you and I sat next to each other at mealtime, and we just hit it off. We were talking about health and money, and your health is your true wealth. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I talk about too. And you're like, yeah, me too. Anyway, it was just so good. But you went from, financial despair and on your deathbed to a multi-millionaire and in peak health. And we want to talk all about that and how there's a correlation with health and wealth. And so let's just jump right into it with figuring out and hearing what you discovered. I'd call it your deathbed discovery. There were two things you really discovered. Let's jump in there, and then we'll just unravel this and unpack it in the conversation.
For me, the big awareness was, or let's say even lack of awareness, that it's just our lack of awareness in life that gets us. And I would say that God calls our bluff, that we think we know all these things, and we're after doing us the way we do us, and all of us, and we're maybe betraying all those natural laws, and all of a sudden, we get knocked out at the knees by the 2x4 because we're not paying attention. We're just not aware, or we're just betraying the laws of nature and have to deal with those consequences. So one of those for me was my health. I thought I was healthy, which was kind of the irony of it, because I was overtraining. I was running marathons. I was super stressed all the time. I was just in the achievement game. And part of that is, what I was doing is I was really sacrificing my health and just using my body in a way like a machine, so to speak, until it just couldn't sustain anymore. But that's where I wasn't aware. But the reason why I tell that story is because I found myself, I've always been an entrepreneur and just a go-getter and a high achiever. So that's type A, high performing overachievers. And, I would have had I would have been the poster child for the entrepreneurial success story, the rags to riches, all of that I was a pinnacle of success and bootstrapped my way to high levels of success.
Named one of top 100 influencers in the real estate industry, right? A real estate leader.
Yeah, it was in the real estate industry for sure. And, and it could have been anything, right? It wouldn't have mattered. That's the industry I was in, but I was just motivated by money, motivated by achievement, and really propelled by that need for external gratification. Like, my self-worth and self-value came from others' judgment of me, so the more successful I got, I thought I would feel more valuable. I thought I'd feel more worthy, but every echelon I got to, I never felt any different. So I thought it must be at the next level after that, next level after that. So it's just, it was a constant, what I call just a push energy, a force energy all the time. And, sleep, I just thought sleep was for the weak,
Sleep when I die. Yeah.
sleep when I die, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But I would have been, like I said, the entrepreneurial success story, like on a poster. But what I didn't know is that I was just completely out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I got really ill, just out of the blue, I mean, I was doing a key talk performance to the top industry leaders and getting standing ovation. And within 3 days, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't get out of bed. Like I had no idea I was sick. But what that taught me, the awareness that came out of that is like what we talked about, is what I realized that in the pursuit of achievement and money, even though I teach money and I'm a kind of a money coach, if you will, that I made life all about the money and everything else got sacrificed. So I learned that no matter how much money and success that I had, when I didn't have my health, none of it mattered. And I gave up all the money to save my life and spend it. I gave up the success to get my shit back together. And because none of it mattered except my health, because I realized full on right there that I was chasing the wrong things. I was chasing external reward versus internal gratification, satisfaction, and joy and happiness. That's all so internal.
Yeah, right. Well, Todd and I have been watching Limitless with Chris Helmsworth. I don't know if you've been watching that at all, but it's a series and it's so great because we just watched one the other night and it was about acceptance, and it was about acceptance of aging and just that we are all going to die, right, at some point, but just acceptance of I am enough, right, and acceptance of what do you really want in your life and what do you want to look like and what really matters. And like you're saying, it's from the internal out. It's who are we and I would say, who are we and whose are we in God's eyes. And a lot of it is that we don't know who we are. And so we're trying to run this race, and you like really ran it, and you ran your body into the ground. But then there's the other opposite end of maybe someone listening that hasn't moved their body at all. So there's the two ends of the spectrum where your body will break down, right? So that's coming to that I guess middle ground for your, in particular, your body, your desired goals that would keep you in a place of being healthy and thus creating a better wealth system. But you can't do it on your deathbed. And so when you were in bed, what did you have? What was going on with your body?
Well, first of all, what's so interesting is that like my healing journey ended up being such a spiritual journey. And the first part of that, like I wouldn't let go. Like I just wanted to be back where I was. I wanted to get better so I can get back where I was. And then that went,
because this is what you knew.
Yeah. This is what I knew. And then the longer it went on, I had to face myself, because the first part of the struggle, there was the physical piece, which was awful. The emotional, spiritual piece was like, who am I if I'm not performing? And I really had to face that. Like, what if I can never do that again? Like, and there was that, I don't know who I am. Do I have any value in the world? Am I worthwhile? And finally getting to the place of acceptance, to use your word, like, oh yeah, I am. I am, just because I am, and I'm a good person, and I'm these things. And it was finally when I had just accepted that and let go to say, I just need to let go and accept who I am and learn to love myself. And the piece to that, and that's actually ironically when I started getting better. Like I'd like put in that hard fight for so long, because I'd fought for everything my entire life. Because to fight to really get back to that other life is when I finally let go and just learn to love myself, and just to get to this place of love and acceptance and understanding and what is joy and what is the meaning of life and who am I without those accolades. That's when I started to heal, which is funny enough, right?
No, I think that's beautiful. And it reminds me of some talks I've done. I talk about relaxed intensity. And I think of it as a river flowing, right? When we are in the right zone and treating and caring for our body in the right way, mind, body, spirit, emotionally, then we begin to flow. We begin to flow in how we're supposed to go, but it's an intentional direction, right? A river goes in an intentional direction. And so that's where you discovered that you became more who you were created to be, and you were in the flow. You didn't have to strive and work so hard. And I know, your background, you came from more of a poverty type of situation. So to have money was like, I conquered, and this is your identity. And so to overcome all that is big. And so now with knowing both sides of the coin, you have become just really a master at understanding money and understanding how the wealth and the health aspect are connected. And so let's talk a little bit about how you work with individuals. And I know you work mainly with entrepreneurs, but you also work with, other people. They're just wanting to understand their finances, right? Like I think of single moms or whatever that just don't have a grasp on their money situation. What do you do when you talk through, and as you're a money coach, what do you do when you talk through money with people?
Yeah, the big thing with money. So after, I made it to the side, if you will, and I really started to understand just through my own anecdotal experience that health and wealth are like the same thing. Like, and so much so that when I started doing some research on this and look at kind of the etymology of the word wealth, comes back from wheel, W-E-I-L, which is health.
Yeah.
So they actually share the same lineage of like narrative, that when you say health is wealth, that was the beginning. Health really was wealth. And then, wealth became a derivative of that. So when I started to really deconstruct this, I noticed that they're so aligned, they are so much the same thing. They're just reflected differently kind of in this 3D world, if you will. So when I started to look at that, then there became more of this understanding of, oh, that's this integration that to live a good life, we have to have a healthy body, mind, and spirit. Mm-hmm. So that's not necessarily easy, but it's just the law that we have to take care of ourselves. And I didn't have the awareness before I got sick of what that required. Hence I got taken out pretty badly. So, and that's it. And like I said, that many times, I know you had your accident, for example, and we just don't realize how important it is to take care of our health until we've had a consequence.
That's right.
Right. So that's that piece. At the same time, like going through my situation where I was fortunate, I guess, is that I had the financial resources that enabled me to pay for the level of care that it took to actually reverse and get me back to where I am today, because it was undiagnosed for a long time because it wasn't obvious, and it was cash. So, I noticed that too, is that where I didn't care about the money like I used to, like it had a different meaning. The meaning of my money was real. Mm-hmm. Like I had it there. I could pay for the best doctors. I could pay for everything that it took. And I was lucky, because if I didn't have this financial resource, now lucky in the sense I built it and had it, right? But I see so many people I work with that just they have a health condition, and then there aren't the financial resources that make it that much more stressful. And so, over time, just through life, if we can live by this understanding, or maybe a truth that, we need our health and we need money to live like a fully integrated, healthy life together, financial wellness is equally important. Yeah. And without that lack of awareness and understanding, we're going to reach some part of our life where, again, there's that crisis, that financial crisis where, the lack of money causes serious problems. And so the only way to avoid that is to learn about money and learn its importance and its meaning and get good with it, to make sure that when life happens, hopefully life is hard enough, we don't have to have it exacerbated by the financial piece as well.
No, that's so good, Krisstina. And, it's interesting because is it, the chicken or the egg kind of thing, right? Like a lot of times people will say, oh yeah, I'd love to do that, but I don't have the money. And yet if you don't do it and don't understand that the investment for your health is vital, then you're going to crumble and fall, and then you're going to need to do it eventually. So what would you say to the person that is like, maybe not in a healthy place physically, and they keep putting off the very thing that they should invest in, which would be their health, in order to actually get to their wealth goals? What would you say to that person? Because I've heard time and time again that, oh, once this project gets done, then I'll do that. Or it's always, an if then, but they're last. They put themselves last. What would you say to that person?
Well, there's a couple things is that, when we go back to value in a way, to love and value, and, we're love and valuing other things more than we love and value ourselves.
Sad, right?
So a lot of this is a self-love piece.
Yep.
And only we can fix that piece, right? A doctor can't fix it. We can go work on emotional health and different things. But I learned that, again, like going through my deathbed experience, I had to learn how to love myself. But when we truly love ourselves, so we can learn to love our bodies and what are the magic. I mean, talk about God. I mean, we're just these our bodies are so intelligent, way beyond our ability to understand it. Even the smartest doctors can't understand the intelligence, of our bodies. So, when we can learn to love ourselves and love and appreciate our bodies, like really appreciate that and put that on the forefront of what we care about, knowing how important our health is. It starts there. So then if we can put meaning and importance to our health and our body and love of self and wanting to take care of self because we love of self, and how that love of self, projects out into the world through good living and loving others and having others love us, and experience, like everything we do with our bodies.
Ripple effect. Yeah.
The ripple effect is that when we can really love our bodies that way, and like I say, levels of importance, if we were to score that, then is it more important than, I don't know, Netflix? Is our body more important than a fancy new car? Is our body more important than maybe the biggest house on the block? Is our body more important than these other things we're spending money on?
I'm going to say yes, yes, and yes.
Right, but we're not thinking that.
Right.
So when we say we can't afford it, we can't afford to take care of ourselves, we really need to look at ourselves and say, really?
Yeah.
Because the money's there for most of us. We have the money. We're just choosing to spend it somewhere else.
Yep.
And that's the trade-off. We're trading our health for something else, the new car, the emblem on the clothes, the shoes, the bags, and there's nothing wrong with spending money. It's just saying that the money's probably there. It's probably you're just spending it somewhere with an excuse, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
But you can absolutely positively afford working with you, for example, or whatever it is. When we have health issues, we can figure out a way to afford it one way or another, but we won't figure out that way. We won't change our spending habits. We won't change these things if we don't put the importance of self right up there at the top.
That's true. I posted something the other day and I said, diseased thoughts lead to a diseased body. Do you believe the same to be true with your finances? Diseased thoughts about your finances leads to a cracked, diseased financial bank account.
Well, I'd say diseased. If we looked at diseased money, I'd say that'd be more the mindset piece. And so, where we're diseased just means where our thinking's off. That's right. And where our thinking's off is usually where we get ourselves into trouble one way or another. But yeah, so that's our mindset. And when it happens with mindset, our minds are set by the time we're 7 to 10 years old. We sit here and we speak English because our parents spoke English to us. And we didn't choose to speak English. We're speaking it because that's the environment we grew up in. So when it comes to money, we're still living those mindsets that were given to us as children. So if they've never been looked at and it's not really serving us, they might need to be examined. But I'd say that would be like the mind part of money. If we look at the mind, body, and spirit, that's the mind part. And those diseased thoughts can absolutely positively turn into poor money habits.
Yeah. And do you think that there's you think it's like sometimes there's a fear of money, or maybe it's just an unhealthy love of it? for most people? I mean, I'm just curious when you're working with your clients and stuff around money.
There's usually, there's typically always a good amount of fear until somebody's done the work. I mean, the takeaway here is we have to do our work with money like we have to do our work with everything else.
Right.
It's a life skill that's not obvious. What's obvious is to make money and to spend it. Nothing beyond money is obvious after that. Yeah. So we go into adulthood, long into adulthood, without really understanding of the operations of money, which means we're probably never going to have the wealth and, that we all want without some type of study and practice of that. But yeah, the mindset piece comes from a lot of fear, but it's that for most people, money wasn't safe. So we're still these adolescent children playing around in adult bodies until we really work on those adaptive children. And, I call it adulthood. And adulthood, there's these topics of adults that parenting is, if you're going to have kids, adulting is learning parenting, adulting is learning money. Adulting is learning how to take care of your health, because all these things are required to live, a good, above average life. So the fear piece comes out of more or less a lack of safety. For most people, money was not a safe topic. So they either heard their parents argue about it all the time, so it wasn't safe there. Or maybe if the parents were divorced, one parent talked about the other parent, like in my situation, of how bad they were because they never paid any child support, or they never did this, and there was never enough money. So money was always this topic that was not safe. And, and there's always some negative connotation with it one way or another. So again, we're pulling those same kind of beliefs and mindsets into adulthood, still living them out. We're just living them out a little bit differently. So that's what I see mostly, is that our nervous system is all oriented around safety. So if money's not a safe subject, what are we going to do? We're going to avoid it. We're going to procrastinate it. We're going to be afraid to talk about it. We're going to be afraid to, bring it up in a conversation with our spouse, or, it's just, that's where the fear is. It's just this real fear of just even the conversation itself.
I think that's spot on. And I would say it's equally true with health topics. If food was an issue in the home, or if one parent was unhealthy, or if they enabled the child and gave them, treats a lot, and it became that it's just so fascinating to me. It's all emotional and spiritual, and it's just fascinating. But here's what I want to ask you. There's sometimes, and maybe you've had clients like this as well, that you've worked with them and they put into action and it worked, and then they move on to something else because, well, it's just not fun anymore, and they want to try something new. And it's like, but wait a minute, that worked, but it's not fun anymore. Well, tough. Do it anyway. I feel like going David Goggins style, like do it anyway. It's the discipline, right? And that's the same with the workouts. It's the same way with your financial, health. So what would you say to that person that likes to keep keeping it fresh, so to speak, and jumping to this, to that, to the other? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I just say there's fundamentals of life. That it's just the way it is. Whether you like it or not, it's irrelevant. I think, we've all used the example of gravity. Whether you like gravity or not, gravity doesn't care. You jump off a 10-story building, splat, right?
Right.
So, whether we get tired of gravity or it's not novel and fun anymore,
gravity doesn't care. Right.
Period. End of story. And that's just the way it is. And so, when it comes to health, it's just the way it is. Our bodies are designed. We need sleep. We need nutrients. We need good quality water. We need, to feel safe.
And all that.
Yeah, we need the movement. Like, that's just the way it is. And so granted, we can go on a 12-week intense program and start doing all those things, be like, yeah, now we don't keep it. But again, the body's going to go right back to the place of illness, or it's going to start moving that way. And we're always kind of going against that, because the easy thing is to eat bonbons, sit in front of Netflix and chill out and do that. And that's what our kind
Yeah.
of the ease of
We
what
want to do what we want to do.
Right.
Same with our financial health. We
Right.
want that handbag right now. I don't
Right.
care. I want it now. So yeah, it's all the same, it's all intertwined. And so that's really one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on today, is because you're just so you're such an expert in this field, and you're so gracious and kind with the people that you work with, and you're just so knowledgeable because you've been on both sides of the spectrum. You get it, and you understand the mindset behind it all. And so I want to empower those that are listening with your just mastering of the skill. And I know that you have a financial quiz that would be beneficial for anyone to go to. And that's at wisemoneymethod.com/quiz. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's a fun little quiz. So I say it's to test your financial IQ, and people will be like, "Well, is that a lot of math?" They associate with an IQ test. It's 10 easy, fun questions. It's almost like a little personality profile. So the quiz is fun. What's really interesting about that quiz is now thousands of people have taken it, and the average score is about 26%. So that in 100%,
what? Okay.
that means at 100%, that means, you can be teaching the stuff.
Yeah.
But, so if we just look at it like if it, 100% at school, 90%, 80% to B, 70% is a C.
Yeah.
People are way failing.
They failed.
They're way in the D category. And the average are, and these are successful people. So this is you and I, all of us listening, that living life, making decent money, living, growing families, good humans. And our average score is a D. So it's just interesting.
There's room for improvement. It's good.
There's room for improvement. And you can just look at the statistics. When we look at US statistics, financial statistics, the scores I see on this little financial IQ is really representative of the fact that, most people, are in credit card debt, and less than 10% can, live more than 2 or 3 years off just their savings. And so I can go into a lot of data. So that's what's nice about the quiz, just to it's like for you, it's like stepping on the scale.
Right.
You've added on a few pounds, you circle the scale. You don't want the truth. And all of a sudden I just need the truth. I need to step on the scale and take that lab work so we know where we're starting from. Yeah. So that's what this is. It's like stepping on the scale. Now, it's a fun little quiz. Now, attached to the quiz is a workbook. And so I encourage really anybody listening to take the quiz just to get your score, but to do the workbook. And this workbook is really illuminating and eye-opening. And what it helps you do, it helps you answer what I believe is the most important money question that anybody can ever ask. And we don't even know we should be asking it. And it's the number, how we answer this question, this number is what all of our other money numbers reflect or are derived from. And the question is how much money is enough? And it's really important because we need to know how much money is enough. How much money does it cost to live a good life?
And I bet a lot of people don't know that number.
Very few people know. We don't even know we should ask it. So if I'm saying it's the most important money question you can ever ask and have an answer to, yet very few people I ever talk to have any clue what that might be, that's the starting place. And by starting there and asking yourself that question, and the workbook will help you get your answer with some very simple math that you can do on your iPhone and plugging in some numbers, that will start getting you on what I call just financial awareness, to financial wellness and awareness, where now you've got some understanding of like, okay, this is what I'm oblivious to, and continue to stay oblivious is probably not going to work out for me. Just like with our health. And if I'm going to stay oblivious to, too much sugar and the consequences of that, there's going to come a day where, it's not going to be so pretty. You can't
keep your head stuck in the sand. So I love that. And the fact that you even asked that question makes people think and not, because I think a lot of times when it comes to money, people are like, well, I mean, sky's the limit. I want it all, the abundance. But no, what do you really after? Having that number in mind will really help to probably lock it in. And then you can look at, more after that. But once you notice your happy zone, if you will, I think that's really cool. You also wrote an Amazon bestseller called Falling for Money, a romance novel for your bank account. So that book has been out for a little while, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote that when I actually first came out of my illness. That was like the first thing that I wrote that actually put me on the path that I am today. Is just I wrote that book therapeutic and realized like, I think I can help some people here.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of the work that I do today.
That's so cool. Well, I know your heart, and you want to help people. You genuinely want to help people get to their next level in their health and their wealth. And so thank you for just sharing a little bit with us today. And those of you listening, go again to wisemoneymethod.com/quiz. But thanks so much for spending time with us. Before we let you go, I always like to just ask a fun question of, people that don't know you. Maybe the listeners don't know you, but if maybe someone does know you, what would be something that they don't know about you that might be a little fun fact about Krisstina?
That's so funny. I asked that question on my podcast too. I've never been asked back like, oh my God.
And I was on your podcast. I love that. I love that.
I think just kind of a silly one is that when people find this out about me, they're always like, wait, what? Krisstina, you do what? And I'm a Candy Crush addict. So
what? No, wait. Now that I'm about to say, what? That is a waste of time, Krisstina. What are you talking about? You do Candy Crush.
It's my little, that's what I do. If I'm going to chill out to a Netflix episode at night, I'll put on my Candy Crush, and it's the way I zone, and I just can escape into my Candy Crush. And
that's hilarious.
If you're like, wait, what? You don't do Candy Crush? I'm like, yeah, that's my
Candy Crush, and she admits it. That's awesome. Well, you are the best. Really appreciate you. And I know I'll be seeing you really soon in Utah. So appreciate our friendship and appreciate all you're doing for just people to get healthy and wealthy with their bodies and with their financial bank accounts. So thanks for being on Visibly Fit.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Take care. Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing, not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a Visibly Fit day.